Candyman, Tony Todd. So you watched, were you here for the whole movie?
No, not for the whole movie. I came in the last 15 minutes or so. It was great to see it so crisp.
Well, yeah, you're seeing it on the
millimeter.
huge screen. Tell me, what's your first memory of this? When you see this, like this, because you probably haven't seen it for a while. What comes to mind immediately for you?
Well, it's very cathartic. I think about all the stuff that maybe people didn't get about the movie. There was a big section that the studio balked about at the end that took place in the dungeon after Helen surrenders and before Candyman takes a baby, which was not me, by the way. That was shot with an extra arms.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but because there was more erotic foreplay going on with Helen and him, and it was clearer that all of his actions were a combination of being lynched himself, and being an artist who was derailed at the turn of the century and a victim of early racism. So, and today, just watching the crowd that galvanized out of what's now defunct Greeny Green, it was sort of, it was moving to me because it's a deeper movie on many, many levels. But,
well, yeah. I remember I saw the movie when it first came out. I've seen it a number of times since, but I haven't seen it for a while, which is why I sat through tonight. And I remember it being much gorier than it actually is.
Yeah, it's Hollywood tries to emphasize the gore.
Yeah, but the thing, I mean, I think my point is actually that it plays on your mind in such a way that you think it's gorier than it actually is.
I think I once counted about maybe 4 years after it opened. I only have 10 minutes of actual screen time, but he's talked about continually. It's about what you imagine and what the power of imagination can do for you.
Well, when did you know that the character was resonating with people? When did that
About 2 years after it opened, because cable was really prolific in those days, and I think they were airing Night of the Living Dead and Candyman almost every other night, and it was Christmas time, and when I was in Ohio with my daughter, with my kids, my son and my daughter, but my daughter in particular, we were shopping, and it was the first time that we were out in public and we couldn't walk from one store to the other without people running up. And through the years, people have always gotten it wrong. Candyman, Sandman, that man. You had maggots, you had bees, you had sea worms. And she was 3 at the time, and she just threw down her little Christmas bag. She said, "That's not Candyman, that's my dad." And that's when it registered that it was something I was going to live with eternally, and that I fought. As much as I'm proud of the movie, I fought to break out of its grip, as it were.
And why so? I mean, I understand perhaps the idea of typecasting.
Yeah, I'm a working actor, and I'm a character actor, and I want to be able to do as many different. I owe homage to Lon Chaney in The Man of a Thousand Faces. I try to change my look and change my perspective through what I know from the global travels that I've been had the pleasure of going to. It's good to be back in Toronto. I haven't been here in 6 years. For the Morgue brought me up 6 years ago, and it's interesting because 20 years ago, the very second place we screened was in Toronto, I believe, at the Bloor Street Cinema.
Oh yeah.
And we knew then it was packed. The reaction was incredible, and we knew we had something then.
There's so much to talk about with this, but I want to go back because this is the film that I think really made people say, "Oh, Tony Todd, I know I can put a name to the face." But Platoon is the movie that you say, playing Warren, is the one that really gave you your start.
Oh yeah, it was my first film. And it was a film, when we did that, we spent 4 months in the Philippines, and we accurately did the boot camp as best we could do it without losing our limbs or our lives. But it was 4 weeks of intense firefighting, and I was a sergeant, so I got some of the privileges that meant that I could choose which MRE, meals ready to eat, that we could have. And I hated chicken a la king. But it was grueling. Insects, living in the same clothes for 4 weeks. And as we shot it, we knew we were onto something. But then all of a sudden, that film just took off, and we ended up winning 4 Oscars. And everybody that was in that cast, which included Forrest Whitaker, Johnny Depp, Corey Glover from Living Color, Charlie Sheen, you know, just William Dafoe. Everybody went on to a pretty formidable career.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And is the boot camp and that sort of build, because that movie really does have a sense of camaraderie, sort of within. You can sense it on the. Did that come from the boot camp?
When you spend 4 weeks in a mud hole with a soldier that you have to count on to watch your back, you become pretty close.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk, because I'm going to turn it over to you guys in just a sec, but there's a couple of specifics about Candyman that I wanted to ask you about. First of all, who was changing the baby's diaper for the month? Candyman was not changing that baby's diaper for the month.
Yeah, you know, I didn't even come in contact with that baby. That was something that was sort of an afterthought by the studio. They needed to confuse the water a little bit.
Right. Now, the bee sequence, those are real bees?
That was not CGI. Those are real natural bees. We had a crazy man on the set named Norman Gary, who was a bee wrangler. I didn't even know what that was until I met this guy. And then one day he says, don't worry. You know, I had to do tests for allergies and stuff. And he says, I want you to know these guys. There was 1 million bees on set. And he took me into, the bees had their own trailer. He says, and this guy was, I mean, I love him because he loved what he did. He was a fanatic about his work. And he says, that's Harry, and there's George and Clifford. And, you know, literally, he could recognize him by either their butt or their whiskers or their stinger, I don't know. And they were supposed to be non-stingerless baby bees, right?
Right, yeah, 'cause they had to be like less than 12 hours old or something.
Yeah,
so they
something like that.
Because Virginia Madsen's allergic to them. Right?
Yes, she was. And she had to do hypnotism and stuff like that. But over the course of the 3 films, I actually got stung 26 times. Yeah, so.
It sounds like you remember each and every one of those stings.
Well, I had a great lawyer at the time, so we had a clause in the contract, literally, you know, I think it was like $1,000 a sting or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. But you were wearing like a mouth guard or something as well, right?
It was basically a dental dam.
Yeah.
And before every shot, like that final shot when they're in the lair, it was, I mean, you know, it's 5 minutes before you shoot, you know. And in film world, seconds become hours and become minutes. You know, they say, okay, 5 minutes, hurry up and wait. Yeah. So I said, are we really ready? Are we really ready? And then they would put the dam, and they would literally use a scooper and scoop them in, and then load them up in the jacket, and then I'd have to be still because he told me the more movement you make, the more irritated the bees may become. So I said, no problem, man. Zen.
Did you dub the voice later on, or was the voice recorded in the moment and then manipulated, or was it added in later?
We did it, well, you know, it's my instrument, so we did it. There's slight enhancement that, I remember Bernard Rose, our crazy director, called it the Orson Welles mic or something. It was literally the mic. Well, that's what they said. That was from War of the Worlds. War of the Worlds.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty awesome, and it, you know, had great resonance and stuff. Her picked up everything.
Well,
including my fear.
Yeah. Well, I went on Twitter and said that I was interviewing you on stage here, and do people have questions? And a lot of people responded with questions about your voice. And I'll just read one here. Someone named LT was wondering if you could leave the voicemail greeting on her cell phone. We can discuss that later. There's a side business in there, I'm sure. Do you have questions from the audience for Tony?